Alright, what's up, people? How we doing? We're going to talk a little shit here, have a little fun, talk about something that YouTuber, big YouTube, 250,000 subscribers, VSO Gun Channel, put out a video talking about the Red Dot Pistola and, you know, just basically blasting the Red Dot. A lot of the same old nonsense, but on another level, right? Now, I don't make a rebuttal video or a video response or a debate video or just a shit-talking video about it, just anything. So this one was on another level, and it was nonsensical to the point where, I mean, never has the quote from Billy Madison been more true, that we are all now dumber for have listened to this shit. It was bad, okay? But the reason I really want to put this out there is because, you know, people see 250,000 subscribers and they immediately think that validates the information. So people were scrolling by 10 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, and they see this video, that video. Hopefully this one will be like right behind it or right beside it or under it or something, to where there's some kind of, we're combating that nonsense with real actual fact, okay? Everything that individual said in that video is just, almost everything is demonstrably, just patently, just insanely false, okay? So I went through it, I watched it once, hard enough, watched it twice so that I could kind of jot down some points so that I could debate the point by point by point. And I've only got a few, but there's two big things that he says that I can just crush, right? And that'll be it's kind of fun to do. And then there's a bunch of derp, nonsense, bullshit, same old regurgitated horseshit at the end of the video that basically from about minute 5 on, it just shows me that this person has spent so little time behind the glass of one of these things. It was almost as if they had never seen one before, where the 13-minute video that he did was 12 more minutes than he's ever spent talking about this here Red Dot pistol. So it was just something to behold, definitely. So I want to put it out as an educational thing so people understand I'm not just talking shit. Okay, I am talking shit for sure because it was arrogant and cocky and weird, but it is to be educational so people can potentially see this and get steered in the right direction. And Red Dot pistol stuff is just something that truly needs to be, just a lot of people need to shut the fuck up about it and leave it to people who really know what they're talking about. Right? I consider myself, and am considered by many, as a Red Dot guy. I've been shooting them since late 2016. I've trained with and trained a lot of people. Shoot at a fairly high level, train and really expect a high level of skill set ownership. And for me, you know, I've spent a freaking ton of time behind the glass of one of these things, well over 100,000 rounds through Red Dot pistols. just a ton of time, not only behind the glass training, competing, shooting, whatever, with Red Dot pistols, but just going deep into the thing as a whole and trying to teach it to people and different brains, different eyeballs, different skill sets and structures and physical things. Like it's all, there's a lot to it. Okay, why do you think that Aaron Cowan and Scott Jedlinski and people like that put so much time and so much thought into these things? Because there's more to it than meets the freaking eye, okay? You don't mount one on your gun last Thursday and become an expert, and you sure as hell don't shoot one 12 times, shoot a half a magazine through your buddies, and then make videos on YouTube talking about how freaking shitty they are and how they do all these different things. This video that this person put out was so damn dumb. Alright, so we got to go through it. Right. Now, the first 5 minutes of it, pure garble, convoluted nonsense. I watched it twice, still couldn't get much out of the first 5 minutes. Okay. One thing he did talk about in there is how the the actual line system of lining sights to a target and stuff is the same with iron sights as a red dot. He tried to make this some kind of con, but I mean, yeah, sure, guy, you have to line the bore to the target and your eyeball. It's called sight alignment, sight picture. Lining the gun up to the target, it's the same, yeah, of course. It's a little bit simpler process with this and a little bit simpler to teach with this because there is simply a optical red dot that you put on where you want to hit, okay? You can target focus. There's not focal shifts and focal planes to deal with as in iron sights. It's a little bit of a simpler process with this, but yes, fundamentally they are the same. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, the last half of the video or so is where I kind of found a few actual points that he made that I can debate here. And the first one is so huge. He says that the red dot on the pistol takes out the need for good presentation. Now, I don't know how in the hell you would get to think that. I guess if you were standing on a range and someone handed you a red dot pistol and you had all the time in the world to hit a target and you presented the gun in front of your face and had all the time in the world to try to hit that target and then all the time in the world to try to hit the target again, and you just kind of sat there and shot a couple of shots, maybe you could think this, but literally everyone that mounts a red dot on a pistol and starts to present the gun starts to understand that you need a great presentation to use a red dot well. What in the hell would make you think that the red dot takes out the need for good presentation? Absolutely silly. Just insane. I mean, just demonstrably as false as it gets. I don't get it. I don't know how you would contort your brain around that to come up with the exact opposite of what's actually there in reality. Okay? The red dot is so much more visibly sensitive than iron sights. You present iron sights, they're off. When you present iron sights, everybody, even the best shooters in the world, even the best production shooters and the very, very cream of the crop, best shooters in the world present, we're humans. We can't do it perfectly every single time. Just like me being someone who's very good at presenting a red dot and the sight being exactly where I want it every single time, the dot being exactly, where's my camera, I can present and it being the exact same spot every time. It's not perfect. With iron sights, you notice that very, very small correction and you're able to subconsciously kind of fix it after the presentation, right? In the last, split second of the presentation, you're able to fix that stuff. The red dot is just very, very visibly sensitive to where it, maybe the dot's not even in the glass or it's over to the side a little bit. It's very, very visually sensitive. So it screams at you, hey dummy, I'm not perfect, right? So immediately with a red dot, you're able to start getting a better presentation. To be able to present the gun and that dot be in the center of the glass, you need to have a much better presentation than with iron sights. Iron sights will whisper to you that your presentation is not that great. Red dots will scream at you, hey dummy, this is not good. The dot is not there. The dot is all the way to the top or side or bottom or left. Okay? It's very, very, very widely known by people who have simply presented a gun with a red dot on it 5 times that you need a great presentation. To say that the red dot takes out the need for a good presentation, I don't know how you contort your brain around that. All right? I just don't know how you come up with that as a talking point. So that was the first point that I can just dismantle, and I hope I've accurately and I hope that that's enough on that, because I could talk about that for literally an hour. Okay, now the next point, and I'm going in the video, right? I wrote these down in the way he talked about them, in the order that he talked about them. So the next point he talks about is, for some reason, talking about shooting pistols at like PRS rifle distances or some kind of crazy shit. He's talking about shooting pistols at long range. Now he throws in a little jab in there that if you only shoot your pistol at 21 feet, you wouldn't have to worry about this. You know, he must be some kind of, you know, sniper pistol shooter that does what Jerry Miculek does and shoots a 9mm revolver at a balloon at 1,000 yards, right? Okay, now this is where I'm going to just shred this individual on not ever spending any time behind one of these, okay? He's talking about shooting a pistol out at these far distances, and what he's talking about, and he says that red dots are worse for shooting at distance, which anyone who's shot a red dot knows that they're way freaking better at shooting anything 50 yards, 100 yards. I look at pistol shooting past 100 yards as just dumb, okay? At that point, we're just kind of playing around, lobbing bullets. It's a 9mm, what we do, you know, or 45 or 10mm or whatever it is. It's a pistol. What are we doing out at 100, you know, past 100 yards? Yeah, it's fun to play around trying to ding a piece of steel at 250 or something with a pistol. That's no big deal. It's not even that hard. And a red dot makes it easier. But what are we doing? So let's talk about 100 yards, okay? This pistol and this red dot has what you would call a converging zero. So what he was saying is that iron sights are superior for shooting distances, long distances with pistols, because you can raise the front sight out of the rear notch and have a physical relationship to look at. So if I raise this, you know, there's serrations on this blacked out front sight, or maybe let's say there's a fiber optic rod or a night sight, I can raise it to where the ball is out of the front sight, and I can sit it there and I have a physical something to kind of gauge, right? So that those sights and that relationship is a gauge, so that I can be real precise at distance, right? All right. So first of all, what distance are we shooting pistols? Because to even need to do that really would be past 100 yards. So, whoops. Let's, again, it's just nonsensical, but it just grasping at straws here. But let's go back to the red dot thing. Out to 100 yards. Let's talk about how good this thing is out to 100 yards and how silly this argument sounds, that iron sights are therefore better because I have a reference that I can lift the sight or whatever. All right, this has a converging zero, meaning the bullet and the trajectory, the actual the line of sight, point of aim, that dot, and the bullet are going to meet and they're going to cross, right? So this distance on this pistol is 15 yards. That's what I do for my zero on pistols. At 15 yards, point of aim, point of impact. After that, they're going to cross. So at 50 yards with this pistol, I'm actually aiming around the belly button to hit high thoracic. So now I actually get to look under what I'm hitting, which means I have such a great view of what I'm shooting at. I do not have to obstruct everything with a iron sight. So at 50 yards, I'm aiming under it. Now, 9mm drops about a foot in 100 yards. Guess what that does? It brings the whole thing right back down to where I'm damn near at point of aim, point of impact, out to 100 yards with my red dot. And guess what? I'm looking through glass, homie. I don't have any sights blocking my target. I'm looking at my target and it has a little red dot on it at 100 yards, which means it's extremely safe and extremely precise, and I can ding all day long at 100. Let's go to 150. Now I'm putting it at the head, hitting the chest. aiming right over the top of the head. But guess what, Holmes? I'm still looking at glass. I'm not then at distance covering all this stuff with a sight. Let's go to 200. I'm looking through glass and I'm putting my then, okay, about 200 or about a foot at 100, probably 2.5 or 3 foot at 200. All I have to do is aim a little bit over, but guess what? I can see everything because I'm looking through glass, not trying to look through metal sights. This argument, one, the converging zero, and then being back on point of aim, point of impact, roughly. Obviously, bullets are going to make a huge difference, and every 0, 10, 15, or 25, whichever one you choose, is going to make some differences at those 50 and 100-yard zones with red dots. But jeez, I mean, red dots are so much better for shooting distance with pistols. We are all now dumber for have listened to you, sir. I mean, that shit was just freaking unreal. I had to watch that. I had to back up and watch that 3 times to be like, is this human really saying these words right now? Because this would this would seem that this human has never seen a handgun or a red dot handgun. Like, this is weird. So, again, there you have it. Distance, check. Presentation, your 2 biggest points in this video really are just wow. Okay, so then he goes through this little ramble at the end where he's just kind of throwing out nonsense. Now, if this was 2016 and red dots are just being mounted, type 1 armors are being mounted on pistols, they're kind of loose connection issues, and he even talks about some of that, which hasn't been a problem in 3 years. If this was 2016 and these last couple minutes of the video, this derp he's throwing out, and derp is just a term for nonsense, industry kind of perpetuated, regurgitated nonsense, I guess. This last couple of minutes, you know, if this was 2016, it would be like, all right, okay, that's same old. But this is 2020, Holmes. We've been around the block. We know that that's just not the case anymore, and he goes ahead and says it anyway. So I just think this individual has been in a time capsule or something. I don't know what the hell's going on, but just very arrogant and very cocky to be so wrong. So he says that red dots will give more false confidence, false positive feedback is what he's getting at, right? So the person that's on the range just kind of plinking, right, with all the time in the world again, they're just kind of plinking, dink, dink, and they're hitting because the red dot is so much easier of a sighting system. They're actually hitting more, okay? So that gives them more false confidence, which, I mean, if they're hitting more, it really wouldn't be false confidence, but that's the kind of way he's kind of portraying it. And because they get more, you know, positive feedback or false positive feedback, they won't attend real world firearms training, which, judging by what he has said in this video, I would love to know what his idea of real world firearms training is. Just to take a guess, I'm guessing that it's some shit. Just that sentence, real world firearms training, is just funny. Like, where are we gonna do it? Are we playing video games firearms training, or is this like moon firearms training, or real world firearms training? We're in the Matrix. Probably the rest of us are in the Matrix. He's doing the real world shit. That's why none of us know what the hell we're talking about. Yeah, that just doesn't... That's a personality flaw. When someone sits around and plinks and kind of hits targets and then believes that they shouldn't then speed up or add some complexity, you know, add difficulty to what they're doing, that's a personality flaw, a characteristic, someone who who doesn't understand or doesn't want to learn, right? And then they won't take training because they already think they're good enough. That's personality based. That's not a freaking piece of gear or a piece of kit gonna change that shit. That is a personality flaw and a characteristic of someone who doesn't like to challenge themselves. You're gonna have a hard time, changing gear and beating that out of someone. That's just straight up. So then also he says most of the time, most being the key word there, I think, most of the time dots are used as a crutch. Kind of going back to that same thing, that's a personality flaw. That's someone who shoots poorly and gets a new trigger, and shoots poorly and gets a red dot, and shoots poorly and buys another gun. That's a personality flaw. That's someone that doesn't like to be challenged. That's someone that doesn't understand things to a deep level, and then they won't seek out someone who does. And especially nowadays in the information age where this shit is just given out all the time, that's a personality flaw. That's someone who doesn't like to challenge themselves. When I don't know about something, I'm going to try to learn about it, and then I'm going to go seek out someone to teach it to me if I'm not able to develop myself, right? And a lot of people can watch videos and watch YouTube and Instagram stuff and kind of take in all this material and all this free content, all this stuff, and develop themselves. And that doesn't mean that they're self-taught. I hear a lot of people say that they're self-taught, but they're not. They're self-developed, potentially, but unless you were on a farm in the middle of nowhere in the Midwest and you just taught yourself how to be really good with a pistol, that would be self-taught. With no internet, no TV, no nothing. That would be self-taught. Anything other than that is self-developed. And people that have that personality flaw, that they don't search to make things more difficult and learn and grow, or search that out, that's not a piece of gear, right? It's not a piece of gear that does that shit. And a piece of gear minus it or plus it is not going to change those people. And then he says stuff about poor. The poors. I'm a male adult. Every now and then I nose around a beaver or two. So I wouldn't know what the fuck you're talking about, guy. Because that social media, like knowing that hipster bullshit about what's what on social media and stuff, like that's just stupid. And your definition of it and what you said there made me feel weird, all right? Like cringe, right? That's one of the things that it made me cringe. It made me feel embarrassed for you. It made me feel embarrassed watching it. So I'd probably try to avoid that in the future for everybody. All right. Just insanity. Take her easy.